The first strategic arms limitation talks, or SALT I, was the product of about 10 years of diplomacy between the US and the USSR, as shown partly through the 1963 Moscow Test Ban Treaty and also the 1968 Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, détente had stalled initially between the two sides due to the 1968 invasion of Czechoslovakia by the Soviet Union and also the problems of the Vietnam War. However, there was interest in both sides trying to stop the disasters of global nuclear war. And the first part of SALT I was the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty on the 26th of May 1972. The idea was that both sides would stop designing anti-ballistic missiles. The idea was that these would protect the capital cities and then only protect other intercontinental ballistic missile sites. It meant that there was no significant competition to further develop the technology, and also meant that the idea of developing more offensive technology, that was a less critical aim. And it's crucial because it paved the way for future negotiations. Then we get to the interim agreement on the limitation of strategic offensive arms on the 26th of May 1972. This was about the freezing of strategic missiles and not building any more, obviously, by freezing them, which led to 1,054 ICBMs for the USA and 1,618 for the Soviet Union, also freezing the submarine-launched ballistic missiles and strategic bombers. However, there was no limitations on increasing new technologies. For example, multiple independent targetable re-entry vehicles, the MIRVs, and also no limitations on cruise missile systems. This was only a limited agreement. It was due to expire in 1977, and this had the great advantage of being good for Nixon and Brezhnev because both sides were seen to be as like trying to encourage peace. SALT was also there. It increased détente between the two sides. It paved the way for détente, and both leaders were talking to each other, what's quite important. The final SALT agreements for SALT I were finalised at the Moscow summit in May 1972. They set out the guidelines for American-Soviet relations and the basic principles of relations between the United States and the Union Soviet Socialist Republic. 12 principles in there. The idea is they will try and conduct their relations without causing nuclear war, mutual relations on the basis of peaceful coexistence, and also they would try and stop and trying to avoid military confrontations with the other and to prevent the outbreak of nuclear war, and they should be free to gain at the expense. And the third basic principle was that they would also try and do everything in their power to prevent nuclear war again. However, the third basic principle, they had no legal status. This is particularly important is after SALT I, Egypt loses the USSR as an ally and gains the USA as an ally in the war against Israel to retake the Gaza Strip in 1973, which is quite an important thing, which Kissinger benefits from and Brezhnev doesn't, which kind of shows there is still a bit of animosity between the two sides.